I'm Richard Anthony, thank you. I've been in this business for 40 years. I started in 1970 on Earth Day. I ran a recycling center at Cal State Long Beach for 4 years. After that, I worked in an engineering company for 5 years doing landfill sorting and actually designing recycling programs. In '79, I became the head of garbage for Fresno County, a town of 500,000 people that had open burning dumps, and after the Clean Air Act, we were to figure out another place to do it. And then I went to San Diego in '87, where we set up the recycling program for the county, reduced the waste stream from 3 million tons to 1.2, passed the mandatory recycling ordinance, and then the county sold the whole thing to the private sector for $200 million. I didn't like that, but it's still operating. It shows that we did good work, that the private sector wanted it real bad. For the last 12 years, I've been a consultant. We've decided that landfills are bad, and we've developed zero waste. But since the whole 40 years, I've been writing plans, and now we're writing zero waste plans. So I'm going to basically, I don't like to read these things, but since there's going to be an interpreter anyhow, I have to get this information out to you. So first of all, that when we talk about zero waste, we talk about the Zero Waste International Alliance. There are other zero waste groups out there. There's people trying to profit off the name of zero waste. But the Zero Waste Alliance, Zero Waste International Alliance definition of zero waste is the only peer-reviewed, meaning it's the only definition that's been reviewed by people in every place in the world. Literally, we went 2 years on an international review to come up with these definitions. And also, I'm going to talk about the zero waste business principles. Again, these were internationally peer-reviewed and agreed upon. And finally, our global organizing principles talk a little bit about how you put together a plan. So the definition is that zero waste is a goal that is ethical, economical, efficient, and visionary to guide people in changing their lifestyles and practices to emulate sustainable natural cycles where all discarded materials are designed to become resources for others to use. Zero waste means designing and managing products and processes to systematically avoid and eliminate the volume and toxicity of waste and materials, conserve and recover all resources, and not burn or bury them. Implementing zero waste will eliminate all discharges to land, water, and air that are a threat to planetary, human, animal, and plant health. This has been agreed upon by everybody, not everybody in the world, but people from all over the world. This is the only definition that has it. Okay. So what is zero waste? It's a policy, it's a path, it's a direction. It's a target, it's a process, a way of thinking. It recognizes for every 71 tons, every ton of material discarded, there was 71 tons of materials upstream that was generated. We call this the waste burn. That is, what you see in waste here created all this energy use, all this resource use to make that waste. 71 tons upstream. Every time you recycle 1 ton of material, you save 71 tons of material upstream. We're talking about moving from waste management to resource management. And another real benefit that we've learned is that if everybody recycled in that same area, it'd be equivalent to eliminating all the CO2 from all the cars from that same population. By recycling everything and saving that 71 tons upstream, it's equivalent taking out the equivalent amount of CO2 from the cars in that population. Not the toxins, but the CO2. That's the definition, sorry. So we like to say, if a product can't be reused, repaired, rebuilt, refurbished, refinished, resold, recycled, or composted, then it should be restricted, redesigned, or removed from production. Thank you. So when we look at discards, we look at two ways, upstream and downstream. Upstream means the design of the product, and how it's built. Downstream is what happens after you use it. So upstream, we want to reduce the volume and toxicity of the raw materials and manufactured products. We want to rethink and redesign products that are processed to reduce wasting and planned obsolescence. Embodied energy saving upstreams are greater than the energy produced. And businesses need to adopt policies to make vendors comply to this. Downstream, we want to ensure the highest and best use of products and packaging at the end of their useful lives. You know, it's all about reuse. The highest level of reuse is reuse and repair. The lowest level of reuse is recycling. We want to reuse, we want to repair, reuse, and finally, we'll recycle. Reuse products and packaging retaining their original form and function. Recycle materials that are not reduced, reuse. And organic materials, compost materials. We came up with 10 basic business principles. One, and let me say this, that we know that there's at least 2,500 countries around the world, companies around the world, headquartered in Japan, who have pledged to zero waste from incineration and from landfill. These include companies like Toyota, Honda, Ricoh, major companies all over the world implementing these kinds of programs. And these programs affect local communities because people who work there want to go back to their city and say, why can't you do the same thing? So here are the 10 basic business principles. A commitment to the triple bottom line. That is your customer, your product, and the environment. Use the precautionary principle. Basically, do no harm. The product must be safe for the customer, the public. Zero waste to landfill or incineration. The producer, the manufacturer must take responsibility to take products and packaging. They need to buy, reuse, and recycle and compost materials. They need to prevent pollution and reduce waste. They need to use the factor of the highest and best use. They need to use economic incentives for customers and workers and suppliers. They need to produce products or services that are not wasteful or toxic. They need to use production, reuse, and recycling process. My basic science behind this, which one is the arrow? The arrow Change channels is this is a chart that was put together in the 70s by the Meadows, a book called Limits to Growth. And basically what they did for the first time is use the computer to try to calculate how much the Earth had in terms of resources to support the population of the planet. So over here is 1900, that's 2100. This is resources on the planet. So as time goes on, we start to lose, running out of resources. You can see diminishing. On the other hand, this is population. As population grows, it surpasses resources on the planet. Now, this is not an argument for birth control, and I won't go there. But it is an argument that says, as the population of the world grows and the amount of resources be diminished, it's really stupid to burn or bury these materials when you need them for your survival, your sustainability on your planet. The second chart is just it's an old EPA chart. And it shows that in aluminum, steel, paper, and glass, when you recycle this, as opposed to make it from a virgin material, you save, in terms of energy use, these kinds of materials. And in terms of aluminum, it's a 90% savings in energy. Steel, 50 to 75%. Paper, 25 to 75%. Glass, air pollution is reduced in the 90%, 80%, 70% because of less energy use. Water pollution is reduced, mining waste are reduced, water is reduced. This basic table just shows you that recycling saves energy and resources, and it's something we need to all think about. So well. Okay, so here's the deal. I told you I started my career sorting garbage, and we used to sort maybe 10 categories. Now we sort in 54 categories. So we know just that we can pretty much put things in. It's a coat, then it's cloth. It's a chair, then it's wood. These are all reusables. These can be resold. People need these things. You don't throw these in the landfill, you don't burn them. We have paper, cardboard, white paper, newspaper, magazines. All these are part of the paper category. Plant debris, leaves, pruning, plant branches and stumps. Putrescibles, food waste, fish, putrescibles. Good word. Putrefied, things that compose very quickly. You see a lot of oranges or fruit and you leave them in a barrel, they turn into water. That's putrefied, putrescible. And they're different than plant debris because they basically decompose faster. Wood, ceramics, these are concrete. Ceramics are not just plates, but things that'll go into grains like sand or aggregate or cement. So that's what that is. Soils, metals. Metals include ferrous, meaning magnetic, non-ferrous, non-magnetic metals. Glass, clear, mixed, brown. There's an issue with glass because the clear glass is more valuable because they can't get the color out of it, green and brown. So once you get green and brown, you got to make gray or something. So if you're willing to take a mayonnaise jar or a beer bottle and it's brown or the beige, maybe. Textiles are polyfiber cotton wools. Textiles, polymers are plastics. There are 7 resin codes, and then chemicals. These are things that you would not put in a landfill anyhow. So all materials can be put into 12 market categories. Well, when you look at these 12 market categories, in the way they come out and when we sort them, we find out 50% are plant debris, putrescible, soils, wood, and maybe this is dirty paper. So half that's being buried in the landfill, half of what you burn and incinerate is really a recipe for compost. Half of the material, if you sort it into organics, could be taken out and put on composted and made soil for your farms, thus leaving these other categories available and dry for recycling. So once you look at that, and once you figure out what those categories are, you can now figure out how much material you really have and what it's worth. In this chart, these are the 12 categories that I showed you. These, in this chart, is the state of Delaware. We came and showed them that they could make a lot of money if they thought about this, but they only have 4% recycling rate. 2 states next to them, Pennsylvania and New Jersey, had 50 or 60%. They couldn't figure it out. Well, we took the tonnage that they had in terms of the percentages that were in the pie chart. They make 1 million tons. And we used pretty low market prices, $20 a ton for paper. The paper market today is about 100. Metal, I used 40, it's about 100 there too. I gotta go low, because the reason I go low is that when you look at the total amount of money that is revenue, material resources that is buried in the landfill each year in Delaware, is almost $50 million. In Los Angeles, it was $150 million a year. And when you look at the potential jobs in the reused paper, putrescibles, metal, it was about 2,000 jobs. 2,000 jobs. So we looked at the Chamber of Commerce guy, who Delaware is the one state that all corporations register in the United States, because they're really favored the private sector. So the Chamber of Commerce and said, if we could get $50 billion back in your economy and create 2,000 jobs, would you be willing to require source separation? Yes. I mean, even if this very conservative capitalist saw that we were wasting potential revenue and jobs by burying the land. So you want to set a program, this is sort of set for everybody. You have the government here, in your own institution, your own company, in your school, even in your house. The first thing is you've got to get everybody on board. The top management has to agree. You can try and do it yourself, and you'll do what you can, but if you don't get management to agree, it's not the rule. You have to change the rules so everybody gets on board. You take a look at your existing system, how this works. Look at the places where it's generated, what's being generated, and then you figure out a plan. You get everybody involved in the plan. It's important. And let me say this. This is about markets. It's markets. It's not about waste. It's about markets. So when you sit down and plan for this, you have to have the paper market there and the metal market there and the plastic buyer there. They need to be part of your plan because when you separate and prepare, you're preparing for them to buy. And they know what they need. They will tell you what the problem is. In paper, if you have rubber bands in there, that's a killer. In glass, it's silver glass. It's a killer. Every product has its own enemy, and you have to keep it clean. And Rodrigo said that this morning. It's very important. So when you make a plan, just not you and your friends, you have to involve the market. Have to be there with the reuse market, Goodwill, the charities, to be part of it. Notice that I should have said that. Okay. I wanted to say, this is what I wanted to show you. That this category here, reuse, which is only about 5%, was worth $15 million, almost 1/3 of the $45 million reusables. So my sense to you, if you start a program, you go after the reusables first, then you go after the compostables, and then the recyclables will be there for you. So here, we went to Naples, and we did this worldwide, how do you do a community organization? And in Naples, they hadn't collected garbage in 2 years, and they were very upset. And we said, okay, we have a plan. And they said, we don't want any nonsense plan, we want a real plan. We did for 3 days, we worked on this plan with some people who were very upset. And these are what we think are your goal principles in terms of how you organize to get your program. First of all, you all have to agree on the ZWIA zero waste definition. Secondly, you want to establish benchmarks and a timeline. So you say zero waste by 2020, and then you start measuring success by that timeline. You have to give yourself a goal. I'll tell you, if I say, well, it's not zero. Look, if I was coaching your son's soccer, your football team, and I came up and told you that we were going to win half of our games, lose half of our games, you'd fire me. If I came in and said we're going to win all the games, we're going for 100%, you said that's the attitude we want. So when we plan zero waste, we know that we're not going to get to 100%, but that's what we're going to plan for. We're going to plan to go that way. We're going to go for the stars. We go for 20% or 30%, we go for zero. Okay, so establish benchmarks timeline. Key part of the planning process is establishing the goals and targets that start with the board and the top management. You get your, whoever's the manager of the company, whoever's the group that's doing it, they agree. Secondly, engage everybody in the community. It's not just the zero waste wants, it's the PTA, it's the clubs, it's the garden clubs, it's the schools, it's the markets. Everybody needs to be part of that planning process because everybody is a generator. So everybody needs to have, first get on board, get engaged. So engage everybody. Don't leave zero waste to the waste experts. Involve all agencies, departments, existing vendors, resource partners. Challenge all to pursue zero waste work. One thing in Austin we did is we had a zero waste challenge, and we had a radio advertiser. She was TV camera person, not camera, but an anchor woman. And she was challenged to carry around all the waste that she generated for a year, for a month. Well, the first week she had to get rid of the dog, okay? Then, first week she had to get rid of the dog. Then she realized that she could still carry all this fast food, so she had to go out to restaurants. She literally had to change the way she lived so that she had this stuff. It was very hard. To challenge people in the school or the university, maybe have a contest. Sign up for zero waste and they carry around their bag of trash for a month and see who wins. There's a great movie out there that was made in Canada in which two people, a man, a woman, and a family, challenge each other who can create less waste a year. It's interesting, they're challenges because, how do you buy yogurt? And that was her real problem. The real problem is she couldn't get yogurt. use the fees levied on the tons of waste to haul to fund the program. I don't think we need new money. It's the same amount of material that's being generated, whether you recycle it or compost it, you throw it up the landfill. You can use the same tax money, the same funds to do the zero waste sector. Educate the employees, the vendors about the new rules of the program. That's the one thing we do. We set up systems and we don't educate the people that have to do the system. The people who have to use the system. They have to do the education. Perform zero waste assessments. Go around and look at facilities and find out what discards are being produced, collect data by generation points, use a baseline to ID the recovery and employment opportunities, cost savings, measures of success, reduction in recovery program. We talked about this, they're doing it in Italy, a residual separation and research facility. Stuff that doesn't get recycled or compost or reused, you need to find out what it is. You just need to go back to the manufacturer to make them change it. You need to develop new rules and incentives. I think they're doing that here. The 4 new rules I think you need to do, you're doing most of them. Mandatory separation, organic out of the landfill, back to the soil. Anybody who produces a toxic product that doesn't recycle or compost has to take it back. We're talking about pharmaceuticals, we're talking about sharps, we're talking about fluorescent lights, mercury batteries. There's no place to recycle in your system. The man who sold them, the people who sold them in the community must take them back. And finally, anybody who builds or takes down a building must have a recycling plan. You must put a good credit money up front that does the job right. 9, enact extended producer responsibility on those products that can't be recycled, can't be composted, can't be reused. Use the power of the company. If it's a company, use the power of the company not to buy that product anymore. We'll buy it if you put it in a recyclable package. Same thing in your house. Don't buy it unless it's compostable or recyclable. Same thing in the city. Redesign. Force the industry to redesign the products to be less toxic and easier to recycle. Support the zero waste procurement. Basic point here is that governments, businesses buy a lot of stuff. You have to have your policies have to be consistent with your theory. If you say zero waste, then the products you use, the products you make, have to be the same way. Expand the zero waste infrastructure. Now that you've got all this stuff, you've got everybody on board and they're educated and you understand, now we look at the infrastructure and look for locations for reuse, recycling, composting, and include resource recovery parks. And we have great sessions tomorrow on resource recovery park. Finally, challenge employees to lead the way to zero. And I put up zerowastesandiego.org. I like this. This is a nonprofit organization my daughter started 10 years ago. We've got 1,000 people on our listserv. We're mobilizing San Diego. We're using the listserv and the websites to get information out. And we know that there's a lot of people out there. So thank you very much.